Have you ever woke up in the middle of a dream and the dream was so interesting that you wanted to go back to sleep to see the end of it? If so, what was the dream? Most nights actually. I very rarely have nightmares and even those are very interesting. Life inside of my head is much more entertaining than reality. I somehow trained myself a long while ago to be able to wake myself up from a nightmare. Pretty great. Say I'm walking down a hallway in my dream and suddenly the end of the hallway goes dark and seems a bit ominous. I look at that and say UHH, now let's try again. So I wake up real quick and then go back to sleep. I had one about time travel, but I had to look and be genetically different and I went back time, but I woke up in the middle of night when it started. I read this as you went back in time to when you were dreaming, which would be a really wild mindfuck. When I wake up in the morning, I usually have 30 more minutes before I have to actually get out of bed. If I'm having a dream before I wake up and I go back to sleep, I can usually continue the dream. Last night I had a dream that I was in some kind of resort / Jurassic Park like area. I went back to sleep this morning and managed to get into a relationship with a pretty hot dude who was working at the resort. It's like Hollywood forgot to take down the set. I have a story about when the opposite of this happened. It was a fucking epic fantasy dream. Let me tell ya. Evil wizard of some sort that I'm pretty sure was my 8th grade math teacher. Kidnapped princess. A worthless but snappy sidekick that was my best friend Iril. This dream had everything. So I beat the bad guy, rescued the princess, and brought her back to a village of, I think, Uoks or something. I dunno. Big celebration. Everybody went hooray and stuff, and then it didn't end. We just kinda stood there looking at each other. It felt like a long time. Uoks just kinda start milling around and doing their everyday shit. Made some small talk with the princess. And then eventually the dream ended and I woke up. It was a strange one. Edit, 2 words. This was like the 4th strangest dream I've ever had. Was exploring a jungle with a group of, I assume, friends. We ended up discovering some kind of temple. But it was dark, so we decided to set up camp. I was charged with gathering dry wood and leaves for the fire, while macheting my way through vines. I heard my name being screamed by one of the group members in a terrified way. Repeatedly. Woke up to see my mom yelling my name and to get the fuck up already. I never found out what that temple was. Edit, I have never watched any adventure movies like Indiana Jones or Jumanji. Nor have I played any Uncharted game. This is going to sound crazy, but I had a dream exactly like that, and one of the people in the camp went missing. But it continued, and we found out there were jaguars in the area. I died in one of my dreams, so that was startling, but I was dead for a good 15 seconds or so in my dream, so that was interesting to say the least. I die in my dreams all the time. I usually just end up in spectator mode. I think I've been playing too many video games. I was friends with Jesus in the modern day, and he was sound. Not preachy. One of the lads like, did he by any chance tell you to kill the president of the United States by spinning really fast? I think mostly just waking up from a regular good dream. I'll try to continue it the next night as I fall asleep. I had a nightmare about being a teenage girl with a group of friends on bikes hiding from and hunting down a shadow monster that killed dogs, and we tracked it down to some abandoned house and tried to rescue the dogs, but one of the dogs started barking and I had to try and calm it down before the monster came and got us, and my friend screamed from another room but the do. Then I woke up and I will never know if those dogs survived. Don't worry. They did. I learned I could fly, but I had to teach myself. Woke up right as I was gearing up for the big test to see how high I could go. Force myself back to sleep, and lem tell ya, flying in a dream is way too fucking fun. I always have dreams where I can fly for about 2 minutes until I realize how cool it is. Then I fall to the ground and can't figure out how to fly again. It's very frustrating. Hell if I know. All of my dreams fade away 20 seconds after I try to tell them to someone. The most I will ever remember is the feeling that the dream was awesome and that I want to go back. Never can. You should keep a dream journal next to you so that when you wake, immediately start writing what you remember in it. Train your brain to start learning to remember those details. I dreamt that I was part of some Eastern European resistance movement who had to speak in code and hide out in abandoned manors in the forest to plan our attacks against some fascist regime. We enlisted the Pope to help us. But when we went to meet him, he has double-crossed us because the regime we were fighting somehow knew the Pope was gay and was going to tell everyone. I woke up then, not knowing if my resistance group was executed or if we escaped somehow. I call it my gay Pope dream. Bro. This is awesome. My dreams are just random shit like walking in a forest. You're out there fighting fascists with a homosexual Catholic. I once dreamt that all of my family and closest friends were on the world's largest cruise ship. Along the way, we somehow were exposed to radioactive waste that gave us all superpowers or other mutations. I remember so vividly being able to use my mind to move objects with ease. And I threw donuts at my brother, whose skin had turned as hard as stone. This one girl on the cruise that we all universally hated for reasons I can't remember received a really random and useless mutation. She grew a really fat lizard tail, like a leopard gecko who has eaten a lot lol. She was crying about how ugly she was now and all we could do was laugh. Then I woke up. I have so many questions lol. I used to have lucid dreams in my early to mid 20s. As soon as I'd realize I was asleep, I'd start flying or just rising to the ceiling because it was a cool way to test it. Then my immediate thought would be who should I pretend sleep with? And the excitement over that possibility woke me up every damn time. A moment for our fallen bro. This is also the opposite. But one time I had a dream that I was in my hometown airport. A pretty big one. When suddenly a shooting started happening down the terminal. I used to work at an airport, so I found the nearest worker and had them open the nearest door out onto the tarmac. We started evacuating people as the shooting came closer. Somehow I was the last person to go through the door. When I reached the tarmac, there wasn't a single person in sight. Even the noises from inside the airport had stopped. Up above me the clouds were blacker than night. And purple lightning was striking frequently. As I walked out into the middle of the tarmac staring into the heavens, airplanes started crashing down all around me very cinematically. Honestly, the sight took my breath away. And not in a good way. It was very dreadful and dramatic. I can still see it in my head if I focus. I woke up just as a 737 crashed right on top of me. I have a pretty crazy imagination. I don't remember. You can really spin a yarn, Karen. Let me tell you. I was eating the most delicious chicken nuggets ever. My ex and I got back together and she told me she's pregnant. I felt happy and fulfilled like never before. After I woke up, the entire day was so ruined I didn't even know how to deal with it. Just wanted to dream for the rest of my life. Open bracket. I dreamt my dad was still alive. Sorry homie. I've had that one too. Sucks hard when you wake up. A few months before I got married I had a dream where Bill Murray was attending my wedding and asked to make a toast. I happily agreed. Then, before I could hear the toast, I woke up. Removed. I had a dream that I had a bunch of birds and snakes just living in my kitchen. They were my pets. And I was cuddling my snakes on the couch, watching Netflix while my birds were chilling out, flying on top of my fridge and stuff. It was a great dream. And it was so vivid that when I was waking up, I thought, crap. I left my snakes on the couch out with the birds. I hope they didn't eat one of the birds. I was disappointed when I came back to my senses and there were no animals in my home. But relieved that I wasn't such a negligent pet owner that my imaginary snakes ate my imaginary birds. I have a crush of 3 years who rejected me. Yet I dreamt about being with her as couples. I know this will never happen in real life. So when I woke up, I forced myself to sleep again. Unfortunately, that was the last of it. I feel your pain, dude. I still like a girl who feels no romantic attraction at all. The worst part is never getting a chance to see if it would work out. Hope you moved on better than I'm RN. I still can't give up. Not one single dream, but often I'll dream that I've met a girl that I'm madly in love with, and when I wake up I feel like I've lost a soulmate. Really strange and sort of depressing. I've had this same feeling. Like an actual emotionally strong developed bond just disappears very slowly as you wake up. My son is in the Air Force and has been stationed overseas the whole 3.5 years he's been in. He's in for 6 years instead of 4. So, anytime I dream about him, I want to go back to sleep to see him a little longer. May your son be safe in his ventures. I had a nightmare a couple years back, and I still remember some bits. I was in a city where there was an outbreak of a disease. Infected people would start leaking black stuff from their eyes and noses and attack non-infected people. For some reason, I was walking in a part of the city that was completely deserted a couple days after the outbreak. Very faintly I heard someone crying. I approached and found out that it came from a backyard. If I wanted to see who it was, I had to climb a high fence. When I walked into the backyard I was fucking horrified. There was a crying little kid, like 3 years old, on a leash, tied to a pole. I didn't dare to approach, because that child was leaking Valk stuff from the nose. I woke up after this, and was still horrified. The parents had to leave their child, who was still alive, chained to a pole outside. That fucked me up for a couple of days. I would watch this movie. It was a dream where there were no debts, no stress, no pressure, no boss, no monotonous job, no homework. Oh, you wanted details? I have no idea. I just remember the weightlessness of being stress-free and being in a hardware store. I know the feeling, lol. I always end up at Kmart for no apparent reason. I had one this morning. I'm a heavy sleeper, and whatever goes around me tends to get in my dreams. It's a curse at times. But this morning I had an Amber Alert at 3:30 AM. And my dream went from being okay to my friends getting incinerated by a nuke. I was the only one that survived. But by the time I was about to leave the bunker to see the devastation, I woke up turning off the alert. It can take me a solid couple minutes of ringing to wake up to my alarms, because my brain does exactly that. The alarm is a phone ringing that someone answers. Or just anything. Can't think of many examples RN. But my brain manages to morph alarms and outside sounds into my dreams. My girlfriend hates it though. She wakes up to the alarms before I do. My situation was a bit different. I was once having a pretty vivid nightmare about a zombie apocalypse. In the dream, I was running from a horde and I ducked into a random house. Time then passed. In the dream, and I put my head down to rest while I listened to growls coming from outside. At that exact second I woke up. I was relieved that it was just a dream because it seemed so real. However, about 10 minutes later I fell back to sleep and the dream actually resumed. I remember thinking, oh my god, this isn't a dream within the dream. The rest was even more vivid and terrifying because I was convinced it was real. That was a pretty tough night, but it was interesting how my dream managed to resume itself. And it did it in such a way that I was convinced the incident was actually happening. My small 10-minute wake-up period seemed like the dream. Apparently that's a thing called continuing dreams or something like that. It happened to me quite a few times. I'd wake up and go back to either the same dream or a dream that kind of tried to be the same but something minor was different. It really weirded me out every time. I've recently become disabled. My dreams are of walking without pain or a limp. I'm so disappointed when I wake and my disability is still there. If you enjoyed this video then hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more future videos.